Hey there, Oz.
Hey there, Curtis.
Hey, what movie we watching this week?
This week we're going to watch Mr. Smith Goes to Washington
Mm-hmm.
meets Birdman with a dose of Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead. This week we're watching Alfred Hitchcock's Rope.
I can see Christina Applegate in this movie as well.
Right up, that was one I was like, what am I going to do for a punchline for this one?
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, let's see. Oh, dead body that we know about but don't want to tell anybody about because it might interrupt our lives.
Mm-hmm. You could have thrown Weekend at Bernie's in there too.
Yeah, Weekend at Bernie's would have been a great one. That actually would have been a better one.
No, I like Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead. It worked with just the longer title.
Yeah, but Birdman was like, I could have just said Birdman, but again, a stage play that feels like one shot.
Yep.
So welcome back, listeners, viewers, to another week of Let's Talk About Flicks, the weekly podcast where we take a monthly theme. October this year is Hitchcocktober.
Yeah.
And we satisfy the film gods by discussing a film.
The film deities.
Right, so
we give sacrifice.
We do. We sacrifice our time of watching these films.
Yes.
And that film deity is kind of a lazy one. It's really all it takes.
Just a lot of popcorn.
Just give me your time and spend some more time talking about it. So I'm one of your hosts, Oz.
I am the other host, Curtis.
And we definitely want to give a shout out to our Patreon subscribers, Don S, Aaron A, Mandy K, Melissa L, Colleen K, and Lyle M. Thank you for your patronage.
Yes, thank you.
And once you plug the great organization we're a part of.
Yeah, Oz and I are part of the Chicago Indie Critics, a wonderful local film organization right here in Northern Illinois. So
Chicago, right?
Well, it was Chicago, but it's
got that small town feel.
Yeah, the small burbs.
Yeah, it's kind of an indie thing. You know, like the Chicago Indie Critics.
Indie Critics. Everything's teeny tiny.
Right. So great organization with great people over there. So if you happen to be listening to us and you think, where else can I get better film news than what these guys have to offer, check out the Indie Film Critics.
This is the bottom rung of the Chicago Indie Critics.
If you're here, you can only go up.
Yeah.
So
we like to pave the way, make it easier to access the other members.
That's true. Yeah, we are the Bluto Blutarski of the Chicago Indie Critics Animal House.
Just step over us on the way in.
I'm a zit. That's us. So, Rope.
Yes.
We kind of discussed a little bit last week. It's interesting with as long and rich of a filmography as Hitchcock has to place when these movies are in terms of is this early Hitchcock? Is this mid Hitchcock? Well, just taking a real quick glance at his filmography, if I can find it here really quick. Which, naturally he's got a super high. Oh, yeah. His directorial debut was 1925. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so, which was a full 35 years before Psycho, which was not his last movie.
He was going into the early 70s, if memory serves.
Yeah. He was so Marnie, which is still a very good Hitchcock film, was 40 years after he started. It's just crazy to think of the longevity and quality of what he was, cranking out. So, so this is, this isn't Middle Dewey. This is this is like the end of Dewey. This is the end of early Dewey,
or Midgecock.
I like it.
This
I
era.
Like it. Yeah, this is Alfred Midgecock.
Midgecock.
I'm sure you love that nickname.
Oh yeah. Hey Midge. Come back in a couple of years.
Who do we have as our cast of characters in this tale?
Not a very big cast in this, just because as we will get into here in a few moments, Rope is very self-contained. 99% of the movie is all in the one location, with literally the opening title credits the only exception.
Yeah.
So we've only got 9 characters here. We may as well just name them all.
Yeah, go for it.
We got the 2 leads. Brandon Shaw, played by John Dahl, and Philip Morgan, played by Farley Granger. So these are the two young men who have this apartment that everything takes place in.
Yep.
We have their former like headmaster, like their school headmaster,
Right.
Rupert Cadle, played by James Stewart. Jimmy Stewart.
Jimmy Stewart. It's me, Jimmy Stewart. You know me, Jimmy Stewart.
All of our listeners just tuned out.
and that's it for this episode. That's what we do. We find a way to just kill the audience off, and then we just satisfy the film deity and go home.
terrible James Stewart impressions will do that. Jimmy Stewart. We've got Joan Chandler as Janet Walker. We have Sir Cedric Hardwicke as Mr. Henry Kentley.
Do you think a knighted actor like Sir Cedric Hardwicke is like content with like having to decrease his status to just play Mr. Henry Kentley?
I'm sure he gave his agent a good talking to after this.
There's some other writers are in his contract to take something beneath his level. Beneath
How
his stature.
dare you cast me as a Mr.
I should like he gets his way and he rolls into this movie in like full night gear.
Pardon me, Sir Cedric Hardwicke. Let me just leave this outside your humble abode.
Yeah, you may have. Like, did you guys hear? I've been knighted. Like, yeah, we're filming a movie. Anyway,
playing his sister Anita Atwater is Constance Collier. Then we have Douglas Dick playing young Kenneth Lawrence, another former classmate of the leads.
Yeah.
We got Edith Evanson as Mrs. Wilson.
I love Mrs. Wilson.
Yeah, I do too. As like kind of the housemaid.
Yeah.
And then we have he's on screen for all of just a couple quick moments. We have Dick Hogan as David Kentley.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's everybody, is it not? Got them all?
Yeah, you've got them. You got them all.
Mm-hmm.
Aside from the, very frequent Alfred Hitchcock cameo as he's just walking outside of in the title sequence. So, like you said, this movie starts outside. We've got a crane shot as it's panning across a street, coming into a window of an apartment. Really, that's
shades drawn in this apartment.
Shades drawn, and it's a very bright, cheery, shiny day. Even like the music leading into this is nothing like Psycho last week, where it's
just very, very jaunty.
Yeah. And so this one just kind of leads in, and then we cut into the apartment. One of the very few obvious cuts of the film, as we cut to a close-up of David as he's being strangled to death by Brandon and Philip.
This was the first time I had seen this movie, and I'm a little ashamed to admit it, with this being one of Hitchcock's classics, but first time I'd seen it, and admittedly, that cut to him having just died.
Yeah,
like just died.
Yes, we're like 18 seconds into the movie.
Yes, and like his head is like just now going limp from having screamed his death cry.
Right. And so he's dead. Like that's where the movie throws us into, which is like such a complete like 180 from last week with Psycho, where that movie built and built and built and built. This one's like, hey guys, dead guy.
Yeah. There's no beating around the bush here. No. Like there's no $40,000 to throw you off the scent of where the movie's going.
We don't have a clue what's going on. So Brandon and Philip kill. And this isn't even like a friend of theirs necessarily. This is like a guy they used to go to school with.
Yeah.
It's not like, just a member of their entourage or whatever. It's just like he happened to be the experiment. They just kill him and they're, they've got a penthouse apartment, of course they do in Manhattan, as these two young guys, they can, but this is 40s Manhattan. So, and then they pretty much set the stage for the rest of the film of it's all a game to these guys.
Yeah.
just an experiment. It's all a game to, I always get the two, Brandon. It's a game to Brandon.
Yeah.
And so they lay it all out there of, we've committed the perfect crime.
Yeah.
This is the perfect murder.
Yeah. Killing for the sake of killing.
Yeah. No motive.
Yeah.
We just wanted to do it.
Yeah.
And now we're going to take that euphoria that Brandon's feeling. Philip's not quite there. I mean, Philip spends the entire movie like
just slowly spiraling. Yeah.
What did I just do?
Yeah.
And so, but then Brandon's like, you know, you would think, okay, we just committed the perfect murder. But Brandon, again, has got this all laid out of, we killed a guy and we're going to hide him in the apartment.
Yeah.
While we host a dinner party that his parents are invited to.
Yes.
Like
some of the quotes I pulled from the beginning of this, man, Brandon is an absolute sociopath. Like,
by far.
Yeah.
Like
the Davids of the world just occupy space.
Yeah.
We've killed for the sake of danger and for the sake of killing. Like, whoa.
Yeah. This is like Tyler Durden kind of.
Yeah.
You know, Tyler Durden crossed with like Eric
Nietzsche.
Eric Cartman.
Yeah.
That's where I was going. You know, this is like, what is it? What was the episode? Scott something where he...
Scott Tenorman.
Tenorman. Yeah, where he, like, as revenge, he kills and grinds his parents up and puts them in chili and makes them eat his parents as chili. Like,
made you eat your parents.
That's Brandon's level of sociopathy right here. It's like, we just did it because, like, he's a useless person. Like, you know, like that, like he's a pawn for us to do this to.
Yeah. So, we are the superior people.
Yeah. This is us.
We get to do what we want with the inferior people.
Right. And we'll decide who is inferior.
Because we're superior.
It's terrifying. Like, because there are people that exist like this.
Yeah, the level of arrogance and the lack of empathy that Brandon,
you know, and we could draw connections to like American Psycho, you know, like Patrick Bateman, that kind of like we're just better than these people.
Yeah,
I love Hitchcock's choice to make these guys like even if you didn't know them as these sociopaths, you would probably view them as elitists, like. They've got a Manhattan penthouse, like they're dressed in suits.
Oh, like just rich yuppies.
Yeah. It's like, that's
like rich yuppie socialites.
Yeah, the great use of descriptors there. But yeah, that's what they are. So even if you saw them, you'd think, oh, those guys are probably rich. Those guys are well off, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, we didn't paint these as like Charlie Manson family members or something. We painted them as like, hey, even the social elite could be absolutely crazy. So they've got this just really large wooden chest. It's just like this big hope chest kind of thing. They dump David's body in there. Philip is panicky because like Brandon's got the rope or whatever, you know, like, but it's like, he's got both sides of the id going here as Brandon sees the rope and he's like, almost like playing with it, like he's going to make a lasso out of it, like he's like here's the instrument of death. And Philip is almost like
I just like we
did it. But Philip sees this rope as if it's got 100 stories to tell. Like, you know, he's like, it's just simple rope. Everybody has it in their kitchen. Like, it's not a big deal. And Philip's just like, oh no, you know, he's just,
all the what ifs and you know, it's the immediate regret that Philip feels.
Yeah. And so Mrs. Wilson shows up, you know, which like Philip jumps out of his skin when when she arrives, and Brandon's just like, it's Mrs. Wilson, it's fine, you know. Because again, they're hosting this dinner party. Yeah. And so
which is about to start.
yeah, exactly. Like, you know, it's a good thing they killed him when they did, so he didn't start stinking. And so people start arriving, the guests, of course, being like purposefully invited, like David's dad and his aunt, because mom couldn't come. She had a cold. But again, even Mr. Kentley viewed this as, this is important enough that I have to attend. Yeah. Because my son's going to be there. Like, because David was kind of in on all of this, but not like, obviously he's playing chess to
Yeah.
Or checkers to like Brandon's chess, because it's like, oh, invite your family, you know, and
checkers to Brandon's hungry hippos.
That's right. Yeah. I hate that game, Hungry Hippos.
Do you remember Crossfire?
Yeah, that game was all right.
It was amazing. You had like those little metal balls like you would shoot.
Yeah, you try to knock each other out of the way. Yeah, that was a cool game. They wouldn't. I don't see them making games like that with little metal balls anymore. But.
Probably not. But Crossfire was a great game.
Yeah, it was. We had a set of jarts at home.
Oh
like lawn darts. Like I remember playing that a lot, and it was like, you go 30 feet that way,
and then I'm gonna throw this big metal spike in your direction.
But you stand by the ring. Like, why we did that? I don't know.
Well, it's like in golf, you know, you get the caddy who takes the whole pin out,
and they stand there.
Yeah.
But they do that when you're putting, not when you're driving.
not when you're throwing a metal spike.
Exactly. So everybody starts arriving. Like we said, we got David's dad, David's aunt. We have David's fiance.
Yep.
And then Brandon thought it'd be cute too. I'm going to go ahead and invite Janet's former love interest, Kenneth.
Yep.
Who used to be friends with David. So it's like, it's just so sadistic.
Yeah.
Like
he's
Brandon,
just toying with these people.
Right. It's like, we killed David, and now everybody who's close to David, we're bringing in on it.
Yeah.
Mrs. Wilson, of course, is there because she's just helping put the party on.
Yeah, she's the hired help.
She's your Yvette in the movie Clue.
She's the Colleen Camp.
She is the Colleen Camp of this movie. And so, again, people, you know, they're playing with who are we going, or how are we going to lay this out? They know that the body's inside the hope chest. Brandon's got this idea of like, what better way than let's use this as the buffet table?
Yeah.
Like, that'll be great. You know, everybody just comes and eats off of his tomb, basically.
Yeah, like right off of where the body is.
And like just the glee he's getting out of all of this.
He is thrilled.
Yeah, like he's like, I am so smart. Like, look at all of this.
Because Mrs. Wilson had the dinner table set and ready
he's like,
to go.
Let's bring it all in here.
Just to get away with it.
We finally get a little bit of backstory as to what inspired this murder. Brandon and Philip. It's Brandon and Philip's idea. It's Brandon's idea for the murder.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like I still can't figure out how he got Philip to go along with it, but that's neither here nor there. But they go all the way back to early in their schooling, and they had this role model basically in their lives. He was that teacher for them.
Yeah.
You know, Rupert. You know,
he was the Robin Williams from Dead Poets Society.
Exactly, or from Patch Adams, whichever way you want to look at it.
Or Patch Adams, or Phone Booth.
Or yeah,
or not Phone Booth.
1 hour photo.
There you go. 1 hour photo. Thank you.
Phone Booth is Kiefer Sutherland.
also a teacher figure.
Yeah. Kiefer Sutherland from Patch Adams. No, I was thinking more Robin Williams from Robots. Like
Robots.
That's my favorite Robin Williams.
Right, it's from Robots.
Of all of them.
Yep.
It's either that or it's Night at the Museum 2.
Yes.
Was
it Teddy Roosevelt?
Yeah, Teddy Roosevelt. It's my top 2 favorite Robin Williams performances.
Night at the Museum 2.
And Robots.
Yeah. Popeye is where I go.
I do love Popeye, though.
Yeah.
I got a soft spot for Popeye. Mainly when Shelley Duvall is singing He Needs Me about Popeye. I really like that part.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to Hitchcock.
Yes.
So they invite Rupert as well. Because to them, he's the real challenge.
Yeah.
Conversations had with him, they're talking about, Nitschke and, superiority complex.
Did you say Nitschke?
Did I say that right?
You're thinking like Ray Nitschke, former Green Bay Packer.
Don't tease. You're the one in the psychology field, not me. What?
Nietzsche.
Okay, at least I was close.
You were. It's just
yeah.
It's on a Sunday.
It's Ray Nietzsche. I told you I'm on 4.5 hours of sleep.
That's true. Yes, yeah. I shouldn't poke fun.
No, to be fair, I would have said it wrong even if I slept all day. But yeah, like this conversation really stemmed from, Rupert's tutelage.
Yes.
Obviously not in a Rupert's going to teach them how to be superior, but just this conversation of superiority and a Brandon's sight, just like you said, his sociopathic mind he's a psychopath.
He took and this will come up a little bit more later in the movie, but like the short answer is like he took these lessons almost too literally.
Very much so.
From Rupert, and Rupert, you get the idea. He talked a lot about like the value of education,
right?
And how this impacts people's lives, and how it turns people into leaders is to be educated and whatnot. And Brandon didn't take it that way.
No, Brandon. Well, I mean, to be fair, like Brandon's always just been a psycho.
Yeah,
and so this was his like game plan of he latched on to Rupert and what he was learning from Rupert, and instead of taking it as a conversation or in a thought piece, he took it
as humor.
Yeah, he took it as a homework assignment. And so they invite Rupert as a way to, like, Brandon really thinks he's going to approve of this.
Yeah.
Like this, he's gonna think this was great. Like,
and in his head, there's going to be one of two outcomes. Either we pull this over on Rupert. I'm going to drop all these hints, and we're going to pull it over, on the smartest guy I know.
Yeah.
Or Rupert's going to figure it out, and he's gonna be with us on this. And, and we will get his approval.
Right. So there was no there was no third option in Brandon's head. We're either going to outsmart him, or he's going to think this was genius.
Yeah.
And you even see Philip as just like, but what if he doesn't? Like,
yeah. Yeah. But what if? And that's really Philip's whole bit is, well, what if?
Yeah. He's the devil's advocate. Oh, yeah. Well, and with Brandon being the devil,
really. You're not far off.
But Philip's just like, but what if he doesn't agree with it? And Brandon's just like, what are you talking about? Like, because he cannot wrap his mind around. He's superior.
Yeah, no, he's so rigid in his thinking.
Yeah, it's disgusting. So everybody shows up. I mean, everybody's there. We get, and again, just to peel back one more layer, like not only is Hitchcock making this stage piece into a film, but he's also doing it like with as like one trying to get the appearance of one seamless take, and because the length of film stock at that time, you could only run for 10 minutes or whatever before you had to switch. Like there were some very obvious, like camera pans into something black, pans away from it. It's like but again, there was no very, very few clear cut to inside, cut to outside. So, Hitchcock himself, he's playing a game with this film.
Yeah.
He's got all these actors doing this thing, and meantime, he's like, "Hey, DP, make it look like it's just one take." Like, so it's just that extra level of, and we talked about it a little bit last week with Psycho of, Hitchcock. It's like he's not content with just making a good film. He himself has to challenge himself as he's doing it.
Well, and critically, this film was very mixed at the time it came out. There's a couple of reasons for that. One of which I think will probably come up a little later on.
Yeah, I think so.
But a lot of the critics at the time looked at this as this sort of pet project, and
it's just kind of gimmicky.
Artsy for artsy's sake, and even Jimmy Stewart, was iffy on it.
Yeah, not one of his favorite ones. He's worked with Hitchcock numerous times, and this was not one of his shining, at the time, he's like, I don't really want to do this one. Yeah. So dinner party's going on. Everybody's doing their thing. Brandon is, because again, everybody there, David's supposed to be there.
Yeah. He's the connective tissue.
Yeah, exactly. He's the connective tissue of this entire dinner party. He's not there. So naturally, all the conversation is about David. Mm-hmm. Which, again, is pretty genius in the writing because, like, when you got a dead guy in the first 30 seconds of the movie, how are you going to get him to be the topic of conversation all the time? Just surround our main characters by people that have the only reason they're there is because of the dead guy.
Yeah.
And so, Brandon is just constantly, and the other piece too, I keep jumping all on. As the viewer, we're in on it with Brandon and Philip.
Yeah.
We know the truth. So when Brandon's making all these little hints and these little innuendos and just all these little comments, Philip is teetering on the edge of explosion because he's not as sure of himself as Brandon is. So he's watching Brandon make these snide comments about David's whereabouts or his absence or whatever. And Philip's just like, you're going to ruin it.
Brandon's like telling Kenneth, like, oh, you might actually have a shot with Janet tonight.
Yeah.
Who, Kenneth and Janet used to date.
Yeah.
And Janet was engaged to David now.
And it's the give and take here. Cause like Philip wants this night to be over as soon as possible. And David wants this night to last forever.
Yeah.
And that's really where these two come back, because Philip's like, get these people out of here so we can get this body out of here. Mm-hmm. And Brandon's like, I hope it never ends. Like, this is my showcase. And so a lot of this stuff, like Philip he's really like upset. Like he's having a really hard time harboring these feelings.
Especially after Rupert arrives too.
Yes. Rupert shows up. Brandon is just he's giddy when Rupert shows up. He's just excited. He's stumbling over his words. He's been very calm the whole time. But again, like Rupert's the star of the show.
Yeah.
It's like, we killed David. Everybody else here is a puppet piece. And it's Rupert I'm trying to impress. Philip just starts drinking. Mrs. Atwater just starts chewing all the scenery. I was thinking as I was thinking of putting my movie notes together, that one of my favorite parts of this, I don't remember if it shows up in my 3, 2, 1s, it might, but one of my favorite parts is the passage of time being told by the changing of the matte paintings.
Yeah.
Outside the window. Just, I remember thinking this joke, like, they had to keep changing the paintings because Mrs. Atwater just kept chewing all the scenery up. And so they had to keep changing the day.
Come on, Atwater. Yeah. We're literally burning daylight here.
And so she claims she's a fortune teller. She tells Phillips that his hands will bring him great fame, which of course Phillips just like, oh my God, she's going to find out.
Yeah. And course, she was talking about it like his piano skills.
Yeah. Because guilt is the unobservable character in this film.
Yeah.
And for Philip, it's like, it's there at every step of the way. Guilt cannot leave him alone.
Yeah. Well, and just fear too.
Yeah.
Just so terrified of being caught.
And so, she's talking about the piano, but he's like, she knows that I killed her. And so again, Brandon makes sure all this conversation is staying on David. Like, people are well, where's David at? Like, why? It's not like him to be this tardy, and why is he absent? And I spoke to him recently or whatever. Well, Rupert, of course, being the one who's least connected to David, he's paying extra special attention to the room. Because again, you've got David's friend, David's fiance, David's uncle, or David's aunt, David's dad. Yeah. And then there's Rupert, who's just sitting back again. The smartest man in the room.
Well, and he does, as you implied there, he doesn't have a reason to panic.
No,
at David being
late. Okay,
and
David's not here
communicating.
And so Brandon's keeping the conversation going about how Janet and Kenneth used to date, and like you mentioned earlier, you might have your shot. And it's like, she's engaged, and obviously, Janet's very upset with Brandon that Kenneth's invited. Almost, she's just. And of course, everybody's still like 1940s polite.
Yeah.
Nobody calls out their behavior unless they're whispering it under their breath or whatever.
Yeah. Between puffs of the cigarette.
Exactly. And so Rupert's, he notices Philip's pretty uptight. And so he starts quizzing him, about just some of the things in conversation that are going on that just don't quite hold a linear train of thought. There's some inconsistencies here.
Yeah.
And Philip is like, Philip denied ever, like, because Brandon spun the conversation about, oh, Philip, he's, this is the 40s too. Oh, Philip, he's choked the chicken lots of times. Like out his family farm, he used to choke chicken. No, I never did that.
I never did that.
I've never choked. No, I've never choked anything. Which Rupert's like, oh, I've seen you do it.
Oh, it's me, Jimmy Stewart. I used to choke the chicken all the time. On the farm. I never,
when I visited you on the farm.
Never in your dorm room.
Never in my office. But like, just like Philip is like, he's already edgy.
Yeah.
And now he's like, he's complaining to Brandon. He's like, I'm just having a rotten evening. Like my evening is terrible. And of course, Brandon's like, hey, old buddy, no one knows.
Yeah.
And Philip's like, it's not even David anymore. Like it's Rupert. Like he's gonna figure it out. Yeah. It's like, he's pouncing on me as his prey. Like he notices I'm off and he's attacking it. And so, we've got David's father and his fiance. They're worried because he's not called. He's not shown up.
Mm-hmm. Like the mom phones and doesn't know where he's at.
No, nobody knows where David's at. Brandon keeps trying to get Kenneth and Janet together.
Yeah.
Really for no other reason.
Just sport. Just
the feather in his cap of look what I did. Like he's really, it's like, in his mind, he's been at the craps table winning for a long stretch here. And he's just like, I can't lose. I just got to keep going. So Mr. Kentley decides it's time to leave. Like, I don't know where my son is. My wife doesn't know where our son is. Like, I'm not comfortable being here. I'm not comfortable partying in my son's absence. So I'm leaving. Brandon gives him some books. And again, just to play on the scene, just takes the rope he murdered David with and ties the books together. Philip, of course, notices. And it's just like...
just beside himself.
Yeah, it's just like, was Philip part of the murder? Yes. But I don't think Philip had any idea how off the deep end Brandon actually is.
Yeah.
And so, so everybody go, like David leaves, David didn't leave.
His spirit left.
Right. So like his dad, his aunt leave, like basically everybody leaves.
Everybody leaves. Yeah, everybody's gone.
But as Rupert's getting ready to leave, of course, Mrs. Wilson she's in and out making her little comments. Like she's just this busy little bee. She's just infatuated with Rupert.
Oh, I love that. That's gonna come back, like, by the way.
Tonight's my night. Like she's totally her motives are
telegraphed. Yes. And he knows it too.
Oh yeah, he's he plays along, like he humors her, and it's fun. And so as Rupert's leaving, Mrs. Wilson being the gracious hostess, whatever, she's handing everyone their coats, their hats, or whatever. Well, she hands Rupert David's hat.
Yep.
And again, because Brandon is superior, he doesn't think that he makes any mistakes.
No, of course not.
And so Mrs. Wilson hands Rupert David's hat. There's a lot of names in that sense.
Yeah.
So even now he's looking at it, he's like, now he's already suspicious, but he didn't really have anything to act on. Now he's really suspicious.
Yeah. How did this guy who nobody knows where he is, how did his hat get here in this coat closet? Yeah.
So it's just Brandon and Philip now. And Philip his tension is boiled over. Meanwhile, Brandon is like, I am a genius. Like, nothing could stop us. Like, we did it, Philip. And Philip's just like, let's just get this body out of here. Like, it's like he's just waiting for that other shoe to drop.
Yeah.
Rupert shows back up.
Yep. The phone rings.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot my cigarette case.
All right, guys.
You see it? There's gold. I forgot it. I'll be right up. And so, this, of course, Brandon's like, round two, bring it on. Yeah. Like, not a problem. And Philip
Philip's pooping his pants at this point.
Philip's like that cartoon character that faints, stands up just to faint again.
Yeah.
Like,
Brandon slaps him at one point.
Oh yeah. He's just like, get a hold of yourself. Like, it's just that wake up call.
Yeah.
Well, Rupert shows up. We get a really fun shot as he's kind of looking around for a cigarette case as he walks over to like the chest, and like we see him slide it behind his back and like put it behind the stack of books that are there.
Yeah, just plants it there.
Yeah, he's planting it there, and then that was his end. Oh, here it is.
Oh, that's my cigarette case.
What? And so finds a cigarette case, asks for a drink, because now it's like Rupert's the final boss of this game, and and Brandon is
Rupert is the M Bison.
He is. He's the M Bison. He's the Goro of this game. Goro. And so Rupert he's got a lot of questions. And Brandon's like, bring him on.
Yeah.
Well, Brandon, again, there's a reason why Rupert was so inspirational to Brandon, because Rupert is an intelligent person. Brandon is a psychopath.
Yeah.
And so once he starts to crack that facade, Brandon can't hold it together.
Yeah, he starts slipping. Just
a
little
lot.
Yeah.
And so Rupert is, Brandon is, he's still thinking like Rupert's really going to get a kick out of this.
Yeah.
Like, so Philip's drunk. Like, he can't handle it. He throws his glass.
Yeah. Cat and mouse.
Yeah. It's, you're playing with us, Rupert. And of course, Rupert's like, what are you talking about? Well, Philip's got a gun. Rupert takes it. It's Brandon's gun. Philip had it. Rupert took it. So now he's like, show me what's in the chest. Because Brandon's like, oh, no, nothing's in the chest.
Yeah.
Show me what's in the chest. And so, again, thankfully, Rupert's got the gun. They see that we don't see the body, but Rupert sees the body and connects the dots very quickly, obviously, and is like, you guys, you should be shamed. Like, this is awful. And then he also feels a tinge of guilt.
He does, yeah.
Just enough to be like, you idiots. Like, I introduced this to you because Brandon's just like, it was all you. Like, like, we did what you said. Yeah,
you taught us about Nietzsche's Superman, the Ubermensch.
Yeah, like, and we did it. Yeah. It's us. And so, Rupert's got that tinge of guilt because, again, and this is where education can be dangerous, teachers. Those kids in your classroom are very spongy and malleable. Be careful what you're talking about.
Yes.
Because you never know how it's going to be perceived, how it's going to be construed. They don't understand jokes the way you think they do. They don't understand sarcasm the way you think they do.
Yes.
Be very careful.
And be mindful of your own values too.
Yes.
And how how your unconscious and subconscious values can seep out. Yeah.
And so I really don't think when Rupert was having these conversations with his students that he ever in a million years thought this would show up like this. So he's got that guilt of like, why did I even talk about it? To be fair, it wasn't like that's the key that unlocked Brandon's like sociopathic nature. So he's got the gun and he's like, you guys you're going down for this. And he's like, what are you going to do? Shoot it? No. So he goes over, opens the window, fires a few shots into the night sky. And then we hear sirens.
Yeah.
And that's pretty, as Rupert goes and sits down next to the chest. Philip goes to play piano. Brandon's drinking. Basically, it's like, game's over. We're going to wait for the police. And that's the movie.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So obvious that this movie was based on a play.
Oh, yeah, for sure. For sure.
All right. Any final thoughts about Rope?
It's just a solid film.
Yeah.
Like, there's really no weak spots there. It's just a fun. for all the contents of the movie, it's a fun movie,
Yeah.
like to watch, because we start with a murder and then it's like a movie like Memento or something where it's like it plays in reverse. Only we see the aftermath, but in the aftermath we get explained to us what led to it. So it's like we start the movie at its peak, and it's just fun to see that unravel. Be like, who are these guys? Why did they do it? What is their motive? And
because I think in most traditional scripts, you would work up to the murder,
of course,
instead of starting with it and unraveling it from there.
Yeah. What about you? You got any final thoughts?
I just tight movie. Was it less than 80 minutes?
Yeah, it was quick.
Yeah, and
Very
just all the thing. We talked about this a little bit, but all the the things they did on the set with the cameras, and like all the walls were on wheels, so like when they would go to a different room, they'd wheel walls out of the way and put them back.
I think it would have been a fun set to be on, just to watch, like just just to, like a behind the scenes of like, this is how we filmed this scene. I like watching those when they come across sometimes on YouTube, of just because sometimes the most like mundane scene has got so much going on.
Yeah, I can only imagine how demanding Hitchcock was on the set here.
Yeah.
Just with how exacting and precise he is with the camera movements.
Well,
even overall, I'm not even just talking this movie, but
and I think it's key too of keep the cast small.
Yeah.
And get them in and out, because really in an 80-minute film, most of the time the party guests aren't there. Yeah. So get them in, get their purpose, and get them out. Like, because the less people we have, the less chance for mistakes.
Exactly. All right, folks. Well, hey, every week Oz and I review a film, and we give our own unique ratings to the film we watch. So, hey, Oz, what is your rating for Rope?
I'm going to give this 10 carabiners. 10
carabiners.
Should have cliffhangerism.
Sir, don't die. Right.
What do you give it for your rating?
Cliffhanger. I'm also going with 10 editing cuts.
Nice. Well done. Yeah, because that's all there was.
Yeah, just 10 cuts. Yeah. So next up, folks, in our comedy segments, Oz and I have scoured the interwebs searching for unprofessional reviews that tickle our funny bones, and we hope they tickle yours as well. And our next bit, Outside Insights. Hey, Oz, what's your outside insight?
I have 3 very short ones.
Got it.
All from Amazon. The first one is from Mark. You know Mark.
Oh, yeah, everybody knows Mark.
It just left on May 18th. Great older movie, 5 stars. I'm trying to build up my stock of great older movies because most of the newer movies are just terrible. Hollywood's dead. Too bad.
Hollywood's dead.
Yeah, too bad. This next review is left by D in Tennessee. 2 stars. Didn't like this movie. I'm a fan of Alfred Hitchcock and Jimmy Stewart. I thought this movie was boring. I left the room several times during the first 40 minutes. Finally, I fast-forwarded to the end. So how much of the movie did you watch?
Yeah. Pretty much watch the whole thing.
That's what stuck out to me, is I left the room quite a bit in the first half and fast forwarded the second half. Like, okay, well, no wonder you didn't like it.
I didn't like it. It didn't make sense. I only watched half of it.
This one just struck me as funny. Again, Amazon. Left by Lou Johnson. 1 star. Terrible movie. This movie was so bad that after less than 5 minutes, we just turned it off. Could not watch it. Is there any way to get our money back when we end up buying a movie we don't like? Thank you for the information. Put it in the comments.
Comment down below if you know how to get my money back.
Right. Just reply to what I put there.
Right there.
Let me know how to get a refund on a digital rental.
Yeah.
I feel bad for Lou because it's like he lives in a world where he probably paid like $4.99 for this, and he's like, God, just really could use that $5 back. So those are my 3. Just unhappy with Amazon's return policy for digital rentals.
Yeah, not getting your money back. At least you don't have to put it in the rewinder.
That's true. You saved yourself that. So, although a 5-minute rewind wouldn't have been too bad. Well, what do you got for your outside insights?
I got a couple I'm going to share, both as always from the Internet Movie Database. My first one is a 1 out of 10, left by Friedlandia in February of 2019. I think that's a suburb of Portlandia.
I think it is. Yeah.
Heresy. I know this is heretical, but I do not, with a few exceptions, care for Alfred Hitchcock films. This one is the epitome of all that is wrong. Hitchcock was a technician, I'm afraid, not an artiste. His works lack heart. He is like a poet who manipulates every word of the dictionary in striking or unique ways, but expresses no emotion. I grew up a musician. He's like a composer who strings out rhythm, harmony, and counterpoint, but lacks a soul, technical virtuosity for its own sake.
This person uses the word cinema, I bet.
Yep.
They're not films, they're not movies, it's cinema.
Cinema.
Yeah.
I go to the cinema to be delighted.
Right.
For the artiste. To move my soul. I don't know why. I don't know why I put a French accent. I put a French accent on there.
I'm in the orchestra.
I play the cello.
You don't play the cello. This guy plays a triangle or something.
I play the tambourine.
Well, and that's just it. It's like that's just art snobbery there.
Yeah.
Because it's like, not every film has heart. Not every song, it's like
there was heart in Beverly Hills Ninja, Oz.
Right. It's like Cisco's The Thong Song really slaps, but there's not a lot of heart in there. Like, I really like that song, but I'm not listening to it because of its moving message.
I am moved every time I hear thong, the thong, thong, thong. My soul sings for the heavens.
The soul is happy.
When I hear the thong, thong.
It's a song. It's a song.
The song.
Cisco's the song.
Cisco. You studied in Paris. With 3-6 Mafia.
The song.
My other review, I'm going to share my other outside insight, also a 1 out of 10. One of the worst movies I have ever seen. Left from Sakotli in December of 2002. I don't really know what to say. This movie is really a nightmare. Just a waste of time. It's only 76 minutes long, but it comes 76 hours to you.
Oh.
If you have nothing to do, just sleep, but don't watch it. Because it makes you regret later. Maybe for its time it might be a good movie for my grandpas.
Don't watch this movie. It'll make you regret it.
The movie will make you regret it. It will force your emotions.
Just there's so much to unpack there.
Maybe try watching it with Grandpa.
Sleep. Don't watch it.
Don't watch it. Sleep.
Put the movie on, lay in front of it, and fall asleep.
Yeah.
It's the only way you're going to enjoy it.
But hopefully you get your $4.99 from Amazon back.
I hope so.
Song. I don't know how we top that, but we're going to try it, folks. It's time for the Let's Talk About Flicks signature segment, the 3-2-1, in which Oz and I will each share 3 goods, 2 bads, and 1 about this week's movie. Rope. Hey, Oz, what are your 3 goods?
My first good, honestly, I've mentioned all 3 of these already. My first good is like just having a gimmick, but also just making a great film. Like, that just, like, your reviewers kind of knocking on Hitchcock for whatever, his precision or whatever, but it's like, the dude knew what he was doing behind a camera.
Yeah.
Like, he's playing 2 games here. He's getting great performances into a great story, but he's also, like, spinning it, having fun with it. Like, so just having that gimmick and still making a great film, that's hard to do. Like, it's really hard to do. My second good is I like the changing of the matte paintings to show the passage of time in the movie. Nobody's checking a watch. Nobody's looking at a clock. You're not hearing, it's just, they'll cut to a conversation and then they'll cut back and it's just, and they're beautiful matte paintings too, and with a little bit of realism in there because you see some lights shining, but it's
like smoke billowing from smokestacks.
It was another really cool element to this very like two-dimensional set to add that depth, and it isn't even real depth, which is just cool.
Well, and again, like this movie is supposed to be set in real time.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah,
yeah, and so I mean, just having that the natural passage of time, it sells it.
It was just really cool. And third is just Mrs. Wilson. Mrs. Wilson's character, I just loved her. She was great.
One of my possible goods was their flirting.
Yeah. It was just fun watching her just play. Like, whether she really thought she had a chance with Rupert or realized she didn't, so she could just flirt harmlessly.
Yeah.
Knowing that this is going nowhere. Like, it's just fun to just be like, I'm going to throw my hat in the ring and see what happens.
Yeah.
So
I'm going to shoot my shot, player.
Cut. Not that line.
We've cut 4 times now.
Yeah, the actress that played Mrs. Wilson is way ahead of her time. Shoot a shot, player. Cut. No, Hitch. I don't find it wrong.
Yeah, if only Cisco could have delivered that line.
Oh, what are your 3 goods?
Oh, my 3 goods. I was going to use Mrs. Wilson and Rupert's flirting. Let's go. My first one. Let's go. Again, as I shared before, this is the first time I'd watched this movie, and the scene of literally the first shot there inside the apartment of David's dead body and his mouth closing. Again, he was seconds away from passing, and his body is just now relaxing because it has no life left in it.
Right.
And you open on his mouth closing after screaming his death rattle.
Yeah.
And that kind of, it freaked me out in a good way. Like I just thought that was really cool how they did that.
Yeah. Like you're in for a ride.
Yeah. Like this is how we're opening. Okay.
Right.
All right. And my second good is the conversation at the piano between Rupert and Philip. You mentioned it earlier. That's really where Rupert was grilling Philip. And he called him out on I know that you've killed chickens before.
Yeah.
Why are you serving dinner from here instead of in the dining room? From this big
this room,
this big chest. And Philip can't answer him.
No, he has no answers.
Yeah, and Rupert's messing with the metronome to make it go. Like there's a metronome there.
Yeah,
and Philip's trying to play piano and. Rupert keeps speeding up the metronome.
Yeah, it's just increasing the tension. Yeah.
Yeah. I really, really enjoyed that scene as well. And then I also liked right at the end where Rupert's back in the apartment and Philip and Brandon are there, and Brandon kind of doubles down. We're like, all right, well, if we killed David, how do you think it happened?
Right.
And Hitchcock does the Hitchcock thing where the camera follows kind of as they're narrating. So like Rupert's telling the story, well, I would have walked him in and, we Philip would have been over at the piano and the camera, moves to the piano, and then he would have, sat down in this chair and the camera goes to the chair. And then of course, at Rupert kind of pivots at the last moment. Then, I would have brought him down to the car. And Brandon was like,
I gotcha.
Yeah. You'd have been seen. But yeah, just that scene and the camera following the narration, I really, really enjoyed.
It was just well staged and well done.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So those are my 3 goods. Hey Oz, what are your 2 bads?
I really don't have many because the movie's pretty tight. But Mrs. Atwater was she's a very large performance.
Yes.
And so that's just her scenery chewing was. It just was, let me tell you about I'm a fortune. And it's like, settle. Like she's a very proud lady, and that's fine. But again, it was like, well, Mrs. Atwater was just a big personality for this film for such a very small, really the only purpose I got out of Mrs. Atwater was the comment to Philip about being a fortune teller and, your hands are going to make you famous. Other than that, that's pretty much it for her. It's just her fortune teller line. So Mrs. Atwater. And my second is killing's bad, okay? Like I really didn't have anything else other than don't kill people just to see what it feels like. Just to be like, what if we get away with this?
Yeah.
Don't do it.
That's a strong moral stance there, Oz.
I did a little soul searching and I found it within myself.
Folks, don't kill each other.
Just don't.
Yeah, just
So
don't
if
do
you're
it.
listening, if this is that life-changing moment for you, my second bad of the 3, 2, 1s, you're welcome, I guess. Like,
Yeah.
cool.
I get it now. Thanks, Oz.
It's like Steve Buscemi and or Billy Madison when he calls him and apologizes for the way he treated him. as Buscemi's got a kill list going.
Yeah. Crosses his name off.
As he puts a bunch of lipstick on. And like, okay, Billy Madison's cool with me. Like,
he made that phone call.
Woo, right on time. So what are your 2 bads?
My 2 bads. The first one is in the original play, which I think was from the late 1920s, the characters were Brandon and Philip were overtly homosexual and in a gay relationship. And although I think it was heavily implied in the film, and normally I'm on the side of like, you don't have to say the thing. Again, let the audience figure it out.
Right.
This is one circumstance with when this movie was come out and with everything we've talked about, especially last week in Psycho.
Yeah.
With how edgy that movie was and how many chances it took. Flushing toilet.
Brazier.
Yeah. Why couldn't it? I guess where I'm going with is I kind of wish in this movie in this era they were a little more overt about it.
Yeah.
Like they put a name to it. Like, yes, they are in a relationship. That like they share a kiss or there's some mention of like, how are the 2 of you doing, or something like that kind of puts a name to it.
Yeah, even just more flirtatious, like hand on an elbow, like just something that says these 2 are a little closer than just buddies.
Yeah.
But it's you're right. Like, you've set the stage. It's all there. Like, all you've done is give it a name, and then you don't do that. Like,
and as groundbreaking as this movie was from a storytelling perspective, and from a technical perspective, like, you really could have come at it from a social perspective as well if you would just put a name to that here. But okay, that's my first bad. I guess just kind of there was an opportunity there, and they missed it.
Right.
My second bad. Again, I'm gonna. You can kind of see where I'm going here. This movie, especially Brandon in particular, they're justifying evil, immoral acts, by the notion that one is superior, smarter, a better off, a better class.
Yeah.
Rich people, educated people are better than others and deserve to have better things. And, because they have more money, their lives are more important. Their values have more value and should be listened and acted on by other people. And that's fascism, folks.
A little bit.
If you want to look at it politically.
Yeah. Just a little bit. No, that's a lot of it. Like,
yeah.
Especially like, what was this, 47?
Yeah.
Like, correct me if I'm wrong, was there not a regime around this time built on this type of philosophy? Like, yeah. Like,
well, even I think, is it Brandon? I think that says it once that like, they send the lessers off to be killed in wars.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like, they don't send people like us to go. We're too important.
Oh,
it's just
yeah. It's enraging and scary at the same time.
Well, and it's scary because while this is a piece of fiction, there are people in very similar socioeconomic statuses to these guys that think the same way. Like, we are, like, what's the big deal? We are better than you. Like, we have better houses and better cars and we're better looking. And I don't understand what's, like, of course we're better. Everything we have is better, so we're better.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, except for your conscience and your morals. Those aren't better. And it's scary. It is.
Yeah. There's a quote I took down there. The lives of inferior beings are unimportant. Again, Brandon quote there. So those are my 2 bads. Hey, Oz, what's your
Why did Brandon pick Philip? Like, just like, there's nothing. Is it? I really want to know, like, we'll never find out, but like, what, aside from, obviously some subliminal, homosexual, whatever, but it's like, when it come to let's murder David, up until they his final breath, like Philip seemed to be okay, like in on it. But it's like, I would think like, I don't know. I haven't killed anybody, but like, if you're on board for something like that, does the reality of your actions flip a switch that quickly for a person? I don't know. Like, I know little guilt, like, oh, I shouldn't have done that thing and now I feel bad for it. But I would have felt bad for doing it earlier too. Like, this is something that was plotted. This wasn't an accident. You know, they plotted this out. So that's just, why did Brandon pick Philip to be a part of this?
Yeah.
Because clearly Philip was the unraveling. I think Rupert would have figured it out anyway, but Philip's actions from the entire movie derailed any chance of success Brandon had.
Well, and you know, Brandon, I'm going to do a little speculating here, but you know, Brandon also strikes me as an abuser.
Oh, I could see,
I could see
gaslighter extraordinaire.
Yeah, exactly. I could see him picking Philip just because he knew he's someone he could push around. Okay. You know, at one point he literally hits him. There's another point in the movie where he gives a threat, you know, like, if you don't calm down, you're not gonna have a good time when you wake up in the morning. And I think, you know, Philip comes back with like, you know, I'll have a hangover, but at least it's mine to own.
Yeah.
Which, you know, I have a feeling that's one of the strongest things Philip's ever said back to
Probably,
Brandon.
yeah.
But yeah, I wonder how healthy the relationship is. Like, what did this look like at its best?
Right. Yeah, because on a normal day, I think Brandon is charismatic, charming. Like,
sure, yeah, I could see why someone would be attracted to him.
Yeah, like, I mean,
good looking guy, educated,
successful. Like, it's all the ingredients are there, but it seems like, aren't they usually always though? Like, it's just, you see these reports even in real world of like, well, I would have never suspected him to do something like that. Well, no, because he was never in a position to do something like that. But it's like, you know, when you've got the whole world in the palm of your hand, why would you think something's going to go wrong? Yeah, it's just very curious. So what do you got? What's your huh?
My huh is, again, as I mentioned before in one of my goods, you know, just the shot of David, you know, literally seconds after he passed, is standing there. How is David standing?
They were holding him by rope.
Well, like,
marionette.
I mean, he's clearly
That's where the title came from.
Like, you know, like his whole body didn't go limp. Like, his head kind of sunk a little bit. But you know, it's not like, you know, like Philip and Brandon have like kind of their heads and shoulders underneath his arms.
Yeah, because you're not going to strangle him that way.
Like, they're just kind of like, they're kind of holding him by the waist.
Yeah.
And I don't know if, like, you know, 60 seconds after the human body dies, it, instead of just going limp, it just stiffens up.
If you're in a penthouse, rigor mortis kicks in quick. Air's thinner. Air's thinner.
That's they were at a higher elevation. That was probably it's because the thin air.
Yeah.
They were at least 5 stories up.
Yeah, it happens.
It's the thin air. You nail it. Science.
Yeah, I saw that in a Dr. Steve Brule report.
Dr. Steve Brule. You know, I
he's a puppet.
I control a couple of the TV marquees in the school I work in, and I work Dr. Steve Brule gifts into a couple of things.
I love Dr. Brule.
I have like a post-secondary word of the week or like term of the week, and it's and the gift that's on the screen is Steve Brule whipping his glasses off just to reveal he's cross-eyed as the camera pushes in on him. It's more for self-amusement than anything else, but I get to share that with 1,600 students, so you're welcome.
It's crazy that your high school is almost the size of my town.
Yeah. Well, also the town I grew up in.
No, true. So,
yeah. So, hey, Oz, that was film 2. That was Rope, a film 2 of 5 for Hitchcocktober.
What do you got for us next week?
Yeah, next week we're going to go out to the West Coast, Oz, and we are Wild
West.
We're going to have what is it? A big year? Isn't that the thing where you try to you tour the world to bird watch as many birds as you can? So we're going to have a big year. and we're gonna watch The Birds.
The Birds.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen this movie once.
I've only seen bits and pieces prior to this. I'd never seen it in its entirety.
Have you watched it yet?
I have, yes.
Yeah. I watched this movie one time. I remember. This is one of those films that, like it's striking, but you definitely benefit from a movie like this when you try to put yourself in the shoes of what would it have been like if I watched it when it came out. Like,
yeah. Well, because similar to Psycho last week as well, you know, like how different would this movie have felt?
Yes. Let's see. Is it streaming anywhere? No. Apple TV. You could rent it up for $4 on Apple TV if you want to watch at home. It's a good movie though. Like,
or if you would be disappointed, like that one Outside Insight.
Yeah.
Where can I get a refund for my Amazon rental?
Yeah, it's only $4, so make sure you can spare it before you, just in case you don't like the movie. This is a solid month. Like, just you know, it's fun when it definitely is it's a breath of fresh air when you know whatever movie you're going to watch next is probably pretty good.
Yeah, it's gonna be solid at minimum.
Yeah. It's like, oh, that's a lesser Hitchcock, which is still light years ahead of like Ninja Zombie. Or
you beat me to it. I was gonna go back to Ninja Zombie.
Yeah. So social media wise, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, you guys could find us there. As obviously streaming on YouTube if you watching on YouTube if you prefer to digest it in a visual manner.
Who wouldn't want to see our beautiful mugs?
My dad.
That got dark fast.
I did it on purpose.
It is Hitchcocktober after all.
It is Hitchcocktober. Patreon link down below. If you want to join in. We're almost getting too big to rattle names off. We might just have to go to a thank you at the end.
To the scroll or something. Yeah.
And that's okay. We'll still maybe do like a pre-recorded reading so I can just add that audio clip in there so I don't have to say it every week.
It is exhausting.
I don't think the Micro Machines guy's up to much. Let's see if I can hire him to read the names off.
Yeah, I'm sure we could get the Micro Machines guy.
I think so. I think he's available. No, also check out the Chicago Indie Critics. Seriously, they're a great group of people over there doing some great stuff and definitely deserve your attention. More than we do, honestly. So give them some merit, because at least they write what they're doing most of the time. We just talk.
I like to think that we write with the spoken word.
I do like to think that I transcribe with my mouth.
Yeah, I think I'm an author.
Right.
I think that's what this is. This is a literary work.
Yes. It's true, yeah. This is our 154th volume.
Yeah.
So
you could put every episode in a leather binding.
Right. I don't know how you do it, but you could.
You can. Just try.
Just wrap leather around your whatever device you're watching it on.
Yes.
There it is. But no, we'll be back next week to talk about The Birds. Tippi Hedren classic.
Yes.
I don't think she liked Mr. Hitchcock much after this film.
Yeah.
Which I think that's a theme. I don't really like Mr. Hitchcock anymore.
Especially females.
Yeah.
Got a feeling that one's going to come up next week a little more than it has. Yeah.
So, all right. Well, for another episode of Let's Talk About Flicks, I'm Oz.
I'm Curtis.
And we'll see you guys next week with The Birds.